Hi, everybody. Welcome to Buzzing About Romance. I am Leah, and on this episode, I'm giving you a quick shot of romance, Author Spotlight Edition. And on this Author Spotlight, I am welcoming author Olivia Dade. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, I am so delighted to be here with you, Leah, and I can't wait to chat about all the things, everything.
Olivia Dade grew up an undeniable nerd, prone to ignoring the world around her as she read any book she could find. Her favorites, though, were always romances. As an adult, she earned an MA in American history and worked in a variety of jobs that required the donning of actual pants. Colonial Williamsburg interpreter, high school teacher, academic tutor, and of course, librarian. Now, however, she has fully achieved her lifelong goal of wearing pajamas all day as a hermit-like writer and enthusiastic hag. She currently lives outside Stockholm with her delightful family and their ever-burgeoning collection of books. I do really enjoy the hermit-like and enthusiastic hag section.
Look, I know myself.
I too, if I could be, would be a hermit, because I mean, we like to refer on the podcast like sweatpants, pajama pants as like soft pants, and like real pants or hard pants. And we're like, oh,
Yes.
It's a hard pants day. Nobody likes that.
At a certain point, I just started wearing like dresses, like flowing dresses. I'm living basically the caftan life. They are not officially caftans, but like that completely allows me to avoid hard pants. And it's as wonderful as you imagine it is.
Oh, see, I'm not a dress person. I've never been. Like, I am like borderline tomboy, so like dresses are abhorrent to me.
No, but yeah, I mean, I do have like sets of like, in theory, they're like pants, but they're
Not pants.
stretched. Yeah, they're really kind of like glorified pajamas.
Yeah. So one of my friends, we were sitting at gymnastics because our girls do gymnastics together. She was talking about these like jeans she has on. She's like, but wait, they're actually sweatpants. I was like, those are amazing. She's like, they were the best things I ever bought.
You see, this is the sort of innovation we need in the fashion industry.
Exactly. Comfort is key, friends. Comfort is key. But let's move on to the author side of things. So, what initially drew you to romance as a writer? Because clearly you were a fan of the word, but why write it?
I think in part because it was what I loved most and what I knew best. I mean, it's the genre that sort of raised me in a lot of ways. It's the genre that I had always loved best. And so when I first started writing, it was without any intent of doing anything with it, but it made sense, I think, for me to write within the bounds of something that I already knew inside and out over the course of, I started reading romance when I was far too young. My mother's like 70s and early 80s romances, which were interesting. And I read those from the time I was probably 6 or 7. I did not understand everything, but I kind of, when I started writing in 2000, I think 14, I knew the genre after, probably read definitely thousands. It's just a question of tens of thousands, like of romances over my lifetime. And so the sort of unwritten promises and rules of the genre were already very much in my head automatically. And so I think it made sense for the words to sort of come out in that form when I was doing it. Plus, I love romance. I've always loved romance. I love the entire gamut, from suspense, romantic suspense, to sci-fi, to erotic, to kisses only, to rom-coms, all of it. Love it all.
Do you remember like your gateway book that really like got you interested in it? Or because my mom got the like boxed Harlequins every month. And so I read a ton of those, but I don't remember like which one like really like got me into like taking them and hiding in my closet to read them.
Yeah, I read a ton of category romances too. They are
I love a category.
I love them. They do not get enough respect. Category romance writers, they never did. I think I saw forgive me for not knowing exactly who said this, but someone once described it as doing ballet in a phone booth.
Mm,
Like that they have very limited sort of word counts
yeah.
and, very strict limited word counts, certain things they have to include. And
Hmm.
they just pull off amazing feats
Yeah.
of sort of storytelling within those strictures. It is amazing what they
Hmm.
do. I do not have a specific one. I think even as a kid, I've been reading them since I can remember.
Yeah.
But, one of my first favorite books was what I have always referred to as a romance with training wheels,
Okay.
which is The Witch of Blackbird Pond,
Okay.
which to me was sort of a formative sort of, it was a children's book, but it was, or I guess, I don't know if it was officially young adult. Again, I was reading
Hmm.
stuff that was not supposed to be for kids, but it was clearly, I think, it was kind of a romance
Yeah.
at that age. And then there was like all these teen focused ones by Silhouette.
Okay.
They had them at the time for like teen readers. There was also, did you read the Sunfire books?
I don't probably.
I'm
Like
sure I'm
I've
older
read
than you. I'm
so many
ancient.
books. Well, but I've read a lot of books over my lifetime. And it's one of those things where like when I was younger, I just consumed so many and I didn't
Hmm.
really pay attention to it. So like I don't really know what I read like for a long
Yeah.
time.
There was a series back in the, I think especially 80s, because I'm almost 50,
Okay.
that they had them at school book fairs.
Okay.
And it was a series called the Sunfire books, and they all had the name of like the female main character in it. So like there was Marilee and there were
Okay,
Jessica,
yes, I know
whatever.
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right. And there was always set in some interesting period in American history and sort of explored that period.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always two dudes.
Yeah.
It was this one girl in this fascinating period of historical history, American history, and then two guys. And she had to decide between the guys. Now, again, if this were a modern adult thing, it would
Early
be
love
like, I
triangles.
was like, why choose? Have them both. But at the time, she always had to choose. It was usually pretty obvious who she was supposed to
Hmm.
choose. But it was basically a proto historical romance for younger audiences. So,
Hmm.
and I read all those. So, even when I was reading things that were theoretically age appropriate, that were age appropriate,
Yeah.
they were always romances.
There's always
So,
this like underlying ties. So
yeah, I
my
always
my
loved it.
youngest is very prolific and she's I mean, I am biased, but she is super smart. And
Hmm.
she is like 3 or 4 grade levels, if not more, above like her
Hmm.
age. And she is 12. And so now we're at that point where it's like she is reading things she probably should not be reading, but at the same time, I was definitely reading things I should
I
not
was
have been
reading
reading
that
at
stuff
12.
too, man.
And I'm like, she's fine, but also like stuff that is really age appropriate is way too easy for her. And so she's not
Right,
challenged when she's reading. And I'm like, you'll
right.
be fine. I turned out okay. So will you.
And I think if there's things, hopefully, if there's things that are things that potentially are problematic, you can
Hmm.
sort of talk about like
Yeah.
what, the implications of it. Like my parents didn't.
No.
It was all my knowledge of sex came from the books and
Oh,
from
yeah.
school. There was no
Yeah.
there was no home discussion of this whatsoever. But maybe we can do better.
Uh-huh. I mean, conversations have been had about some stuff, and I'm like, well, it is fiction, and I mean, she is very good. Like, this is a fiction book, so like she can
Mhm.
separate those things, which is good. So
Right.
when you are writing, do you have
Yes.
any tricks or how do you stay focused when you're writing?
You know, sometimes I am self sort of, once I get into a book, I tend to be relatively well,
Focused.
I want to relatively focus, but a lot of times if I'm having trouble, and sometimes just because it's fun, I have since the beginning of, well, actually, no, I've done it particularly since I moved to Sweden in 2018.
Okay.
I do sort of work blocks with friends.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the video chat aspect has been, we used to just check in via like DMs and stuff. But now, since 2020,
Yeah.
once I became more familiar and comfortable with video chatting, a lot of times a friend and I, if we're on the same schedule, we'll get on a video chat, we'll chat for a minute, talk about what we're going to work on, and then we check in again in an hour
Mm-hmm.
and sort of talk about how things are going, if there's a problem, sort of talk through whatever it might be. And I find, I guess, I am prone to seasonal depression, so I have
Yeah.
some executive dysfunction,
Mm-hmm.
especially during the winter. And I find it sort of, I guess, body doubling that it helps sometimes to have someone, not, it's not, saying keeping you accountable sounds harsh in a way that it's not really.
Mm-hmm.
Someone keeping you company
Yeah.
and sort of taking the pressure off of you sitting alone at a computer having to fill a blank page. If you're chatting with a friend, it just seems like, oh, we're just making stuff up and putting it, like
Mm-hmm.
writing it down. Like it's not an existential struggle. It is
Right.
just a process that you're kind of doing together with someone else. And it is a lot less lonely, and it takes some of the pressure off of it if I'm having trouble sort of buckling down.
Well, and that's one of the things many authors talk about is how it's such an isolating career. And that's how it has
Hmm.
been like since like the beginning of authors. Like it's just such, it's a singular person, right? I mean, unless you're co-writing or like doing things
Hmm.
like that, but it's such a singular thing. So it's like you are like your whole company, for the lack of a better term. And
Right.
it's so it is a very isolating thing. And I have talked to many authors who do sprints or things like that with people like over Zoom because it does like it's nice to build that community and comfort level. And it's like you're
Mhm.
not alone in what you're
Right.
doing. It's just finding the people that really are supportive and mesh well.
Right. I'm super fortunate in that I have managed to find a sort of circle of dear friends who can regularly work with me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, most days, particularly during the summer, because I have a dear friend who's Emma Barry, who's wonderful. I
Hmm.
think you've chatted with her actually. And when I mentioned I was doing this today, she said she chatted with you.
Hmm.
Um, but she's off during the summer, and because she's a professor, and so she does a lot of writing.
Yeah.
So basically, every weekday, I'm working with her. And then I have a friend who moved to Portugal recently, so she's almost on the same time zone
Oh,
as
that's
me. We
nice.
work together almost every weekday morning.
Hmm.
So most days, I have it. I have at least one, but sometimes two or even three people I'm working with during the
Yeah.
course of the day. So I actually am no longer lonely at all.
Yeah.
I feel
Becky,
very fortunate with that.
Becky and I will do that. Like we'll FaceTime and talk about stuff and then like we'll just sit on the FaceTime and
Hmm.
work because
Yeah,
it's nice. Because I mean
yeah,
it's I mean we will be on a call for like a couple hours sometimes and not talk for like
yeah,
most of that couple hours, but it's just like
yeah.
it's nice to have that other person.
It's sort of like having a water cooler at work.
Hmm.
Like where you go, you work at your desk for a while, and then you go chat with your friend for a minute, or you go
Exactly.
get some more water at the water cooler, and then you go
Hmm.
back to work. And it is essentially that, just virtually.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite trope to read or write?
My absolute all-timer, the goat of tropes, as far as I'm concerned, is forced proximity.
I like
The
a
more
forced proximity.
time that the main characters spend on the page together,
Hmm.
as far as I'm concerned, the better. I get sort of restless if they're apart for too long. So yeah, I love writing it. I love reading it. It is the greatest trope for me.
I do like a forced proximity.
Yeah, yeah.
When you're writing your stories, do you plan out everything or are you a pantser?
I have become more and more over time a plotter, which makes it sound like I'm coming up with evil schemes I'm plotting.
I
But
mean, it could be.
I when I first began 12 years ago, I was not. And then
Hmm.
it turns out I was missing what is colloquially known as a plot in my
Yeah.
books. So it was just a lot of banter and sex and emotional revelations, but like nothing actually happened. And at
And
some point
sometimes that is okay.
it
Sometimes you
is
need
like,
those stories.
I find that publishers are less interested in
Well,
those.
this is true.
So I figured I had to actually, I found that to have a plot, I probably needed to have that figured out ahead of time.
Hmm.
And sometimes too, if there's a period of, again, more executive dysfunction as far as depression, if I know what I need to do, it just, overcomes that barrier. I
Hmm.
don't plan everything out, but if at least I have a general sense, here's what the basic things that need to happen in this scene are,
So you're
this
kind of like a
revelation needs
blend
to
of the
occur.
two. Like you have a basic idea of like what you want to happen, but you kind of let it speak to you as you're going.
Right. I mean, sometimes it'll be they will argue about X, and then this will come up, this thing will come up, and then at the end of the scene, this will happen. And then I sort of connect the dots. But
Hmm.
the major things that need to occur, I do know those ahead of time because it makes the whole process again feel less intimidating. And as someone who occasionally, like again, struggles with sort of executive function, it's
Hmm.
important for me to, sometimes I don't, but Sweden gets very dark during the winter.
It
So
does.
sometimes I do. And that is very helpful to me to have sort of a game plan.
When you're writing, how do you find the balance between now, like between that plot and the romantic relationship of your characters?
It's not something generally I think about consciously much. I think part of it is my own preferences.
Okay.
If you don't have enough of the romance, if it's too long in between romancy bits, I want the romancy bits. I
Right.
mean, I sort of have this a warning bell sort of going off where I'm like, there hasn't been a lot of intimacy for a while here.
Hmm.
And then I will try to make sure that that's included at that point. So a lot of it is just sort of instinctual, I think, based on decades worth of reading romances
Right.
and sort of knowledge of what I prefer. Is it okay if I pause for 1 second?
Oh, yeah.
Guys, I'm on a podcast. Thank you. I love my family, but they are chatty and they're extroverts. And so they're just right outside my door, like having a lovely conversation.
That's okay. One of my kids, I'm not sure which one because I wasn't paying attention, like opened the door, saw what I was doing, and then just quietly backed back out.
You see, this is the if they'd done that, that would have been less distracting. But instead, there was like a full on, like loud voice conversation happening. I'm glad you didn't hear it. I was
No, I
like,
couldn't hear
dude.
any of it. It's it's the wonders of working from home
Oh, yeah.
during school break at that.
I mean, yes, yes. And my family, I'm more of an introvert. I love
Mhm.
that they're extroverts. They are so fun to be around. It's a lot of noise sometimes. It's a lot of noise.
Both mine are kind of introverted extroverts where like if they're my youngest especially if she is in a situation where she's uncomfortable or like
Hmm.
not not that she's not safe but like she is silent but then
Hmm.
she is not silent when she is comfortable because one of her best friends like the first couple times she'd ever been at her house I was talking to the mom and she's like, yeah, Nora was like so well behaved, super quiet, all these things. And then, but now anytime she's around, she's like, Nora is so loud, like so like outgoing. I'm like, she feels comfortable at your house now. So that is going to be the normal. She's like, well, that makes me feel good that she feels so comfortable here. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's a compliment.
It
So
really is.
I'm
No, it's
sorry.
fine.
What were we talking about? I think
The balance of the
oh,
story and the emotion.
yeah, I wish I had a better, more technical answer. It's
No,
just that when
that's
I'm writing, I
perfect.
just feel in my gut like there's not enough. Sometimes if I write a scene where there's not enough intimacy, I will realize it after the fact and go back and then add in some more just because it's what I would want in the
Hmm.
scene. So,
Well, in your stories, it's one of those things where the intimacy isn't necessarily the physical side too. Like
right,
you like do a lot of the emotional intimacy, like as the characters are coming together and learning about each other. And I think that
right.
is just as important as the physical side of things in these stories.
And actually, that was what I meant by intimacy. So I'm glad you said that because I did not mean sex, although
Yeah,
sometimes I do mean sex. But
sometimes.
but other times, a lot of it, to me, it's not a convincing romance unless I feel that the characters truly know each
Hmm.
other,
Yeah.
sort of inside and out, including the things that are important to them and that hurt them and that
Hmm.
bring them joy. And so that's sort of part of one of the pleasurable parts of writing for me is sort of those moments of emotional intimacy and sort of sharing
Hmm.
and sort of, because how can you be loved if you're not known? And
Right.
so sort of the desire to know someone else sort of that deeply, but also being known that deeply is sort of uh, an intrinsic, very important part of what I write.
Hmm.
Yeah. So you made an excellent point. Thank you for making sure that it was clear that I meant all types of intimacy.
Well, and that's one of the things I think you do super well is that emotional intimacy because in so many of your stories, like the way in which the characters have conversation and react to each other and react to things that are happening around them, and your heroines specifically, because you often write the plus size or fat heroine, which we really appreciate as readers because a lot of authors don't make that decision, but it's like you have them, like they can be very confident, but also struggle with themselves at the same time. And it's just, they're very real and very relatable when you're
Right.
reading those types of characters, because whether you're thin, fat, like, or in between, like, those
I think
insecurities are there. And like to read about a character who is the same is very nice a lot of the
right.
times.
And I appreciate that very much. And to be clear, the insecurities often have nothing to do with their bodies.
Right.
Like, I mean, I have had, I do mostly write fat or plus size, whatever. For me, fat's not a pejorative, but for some people
Hmm.
it is.
Yeah.
So plus size in that case. Uh, Characters, female main characters, but sometimes male main characters too. And I've had some that have some, they never are self-loathing about their
Right.
body, ever. I do not, that is something I have no desire to engage
Hmm.
in my books. Occasionally, there's some insecurity about it, but most of the time, if they have insecurities and fears, but for the most part it's about work, or it's about relationship with their parents or
Hmm.
relationships with friends, because being fat isn't a plot. I
Right.
mean, it is not. It is sort of a, fatness is one small part of a person,
Hmm.
and so it may come up in passing, but it's not going to be what the book is about,
Right.
because you know the book is about, the goal is that, for as a fat person, but also in books, is that the fatness should be the least interesting thing about me.
Right.
Like, or the least interesting, at least one of the less interesting things about the book. It's just sort of a fact. People have different types of bodies,
Hmm.
and then they go and live their lives.
Right.
And like that's so yeah. I mean, I think that I'm glad that if that my characters feel relatable to
Hmm.
you in their struggles. Again, some of those, occasionally some of those struggles might have to do with their body, but mostly about other things.
Hmm.
So,
So
yeah.
let's talk World's Okayest Oracle Reluctantly Seeks Demons. So this comes
Yes.
out August 11th. It is the story of Hugh and Gwen. Gwen is the Oracle and she has struggled with her powers. And then, but as the book is opening up, like we get the prologue, but then she is like all of a sudden like really tuned into her powers. And it's, but the world is
Mhm.
chaotic right now because this is
Right.
book two of this series. So, my question to start off, where was the inspiration for this series?
My the first thing was actually the title to this book, not Zomrom.com, was,
Okay.
no, that's a lie. No, no, the title Zomrom.com came first. I just was really amused by that.
Okay.
And I'm like, how would, I had no intention of ever writing anything about zombies. But I'm like, well, if I were to, which I never would, how would I write that?
Okay.
And then I found myself actually coming up with a plot, and I'm like, well, damn, I have to write it now. I just happen to have a little period of free time between contracted books,
Uh-huh.
and I decided to do it. But I also had kicking around in my head the idea of World's Okayest Oracle, just the idea of someone who, like, you read a lot of, I read a lot of, either fantasy romances or sci-fi, whatever, paranormal romances, where the the power that they have, if they have paranormal powers, they're like super powerful.
Right.
They're almost always like the most powerful,
Hmm.
right? And I was like,
But
but what
not
if you
everybody's like
weren't?
that.
But what if you weren't? What if you were like notoriously underpowered?
Hmm.
Like, but then I was like, but then the twist would be, what if then suddenly, and no one, and then you suddenly had a huge vision for reasons unbeknownst to you, but no one would believe you.
Because
And
you were
like,
just mediocre.
because you had tried to fake being more powerful than you were in the past.
Hmm.
Um, for reasons. I
Yeah.
mean, for reasons like, I hopefully when you read, I mean, it's not a secret, it's the beginning of the story, like
Hmm.
that, Gwen desperately wants to be powerful, not really for herself so much, but for her family,
Yeah.
and like what that would mean for them. But if you're someone, and then how do you, if you're not the most talented, powerful person in the world, how do you make a life for yourself?
Hmm.
Like leverage what you do have, the power that you do have and the skills that you do have into making a good life for yourself and to form a community around yourself. And sort of, part of what I wanted to play with in this book is, yeah, Gwen now has a lot more power than she ever has. That doesn't necessarily make her life better.
Mm.
That in itself, like a certain amount of power is not necessarily a good thing. It's isolating
Yeah.
to have power for various reasons, and not always like the best for the people involved. And uh, I just thought that would be an interesting thing to explore, just because it's really fun to read about super powerful beings, paranormal beings, but I also think it's interesting to read about people who are not.
Hmm. Well, and as this story progresses, we find out that, like, as she is coming into this power, it is kind of a negative thing because of like
Mhm.
things that happen. And I'm going to be like super vague because everybody just needs to read the book. And it's like kind of the culmination of the story is a big part of like the fact that she is so powerful.
Right. And sort of, and her coming to terms with, what does it change about her if she's powerful or not powerful?
Hmm.
Like that she has value
Yeah.
even if she's not powerful. And like that she may have power now, but that actually doesn't change her value.
Hmm.
Like, and that was important to me during the course of the story.
Well, and I think that's the biggest thing with Gwen and like her character arc as I was reading it is like she has created this great little like community, like, and she has met other people who like bring her in and really trust her and trust her judgment and those types of things. But as she's coming into her power and other people like are acknowledging that, she's like, but I have these people who trusted me and believed me from the get-go. And so it was
Right.
really like reaffirming that she was somebody and somebody important. She
Mm.
just needed the, I'm trying to think of the word, the validation of that.
Right. And I think sometimes as a culture, we sort of idolize people like grand gestures,
Yeah.
like people who are super powerful, who can, a lot of money, a lot of
Hmm.
influence. And like part of the point of the book is when she did not have those things, the things she did on a daily basis for the people she cared about and her neighbors meant everything to them.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to have billions of dollars or a ton of like official power
Hmm.
to make the lives of the people around you, to make a difference in the lives of the people around you.
Yeah, it's
And
just the
like that
care that
was
she showed.
right. And within the community. And so I mean it was she was I loved Gwen. Like I
Hmm.
love Hugh too, but Gwen's very close to my heart because she's someone who sort of has scrabbled her whole
Hmm.
life to sort of make a good life for herself, but also to take care of the people around her as best she can.
Well, and Hugh is one of those characters where almost like he tries to be perfect in everything he does, like in every choice that he makes and every like step that he takes. Like he is striving almost for this perfection that is impossible. But he is so wrapped up in the idea of it that he forgets that flaws are not necessarily a bad thing. Thinking in the gray is not necessarily a bad thing. And as
Right.
his story progresses, like he definitely has a little bit of a turnaround because of some things that happened. Because again, super vague here, people. But he recognizes that like the gray is not always a bad thing. Sometimes like you have to be in that gray for things to really work out in the way that they're supposed to.
I love seeing a starchy hero come unraveled, come
Hmm. Oh,
unstarched.
he
And
does in
that's one
so
of my
many ways.
favorite, that's one of my favorite things. It just hits me right in my catnip like region of my brain. So he was very fun for me. And also sometimes rules, he's very much a law rule
Hmm.
follower, but sometimes rules are not written for justice.
Right.
Rules are written for the sake of the powerful.
Hmm.
And I think what he sort of comes to terms with in part over the book, and again, this is a rom-com. It's not, I don't mean to make it sound, there are things I take seriously, but that seriousness is also undercut, not undercut, but there's also a lot of humor in, obviously. But like
Yeah.
one of the things he comes to terms with is the fact that rules are not always justice,
Yeah.
and that the two things may be opposed in some
Hmm.
cases, and that you can change those rules to lean more toward justice, but sometimes you also might need to break those rules, especially for things that are important and for the people you love.
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah.
Well, and with Hugh, there's a lot of levels to his family and his story and things
Hmm.
that we find out and pieces that like are sprinkled in and realities that he wasn't aware of. And again, really big.
for for a lot of readers, his sister is their favorite character in the book.
I
She
I
I love her
really
so
I really
much.
like his sister, but I think the trolls are my favorites.
Well, you know that the male main character of the third book is Kip, right?
Well, because when I read the epilogue, because I am not like Becky and I
Uh-huh.
read the epilogues, I was very excited to see that. And I was like, ooh, I wonder how she's gonna make this work. I,
Originally, I was not going to. I intended him just as a side character, but
he's
he's
so
just so much fun.
dynamic
He's so much fun to write that I was like, well, who am I?
to say
Who
no.
am I to say no? I never would have named him Kip.
I think it fits so good because when I think troll, I do not think of a Kip. So I feel like his name is like perfect. Because in book one we have Max, who honestly, like he, it doesn't necessarily fit his character either, because he's so serious. Not like I always
Yeah.
think Max is like I don't know why, but I like Max is always like a funny guy to me,
Mm,
and he is not a really funny guy. Like he has his moments, but it fits him so well though. But no, I think Kip is
mm.
like the best name. But I think they like him and his I can't think of her name, but
Oh,
they are,
Thora?
yes.
Uh-huh.
I think that
Yeah.
their book is going to be just so much fun.
I just finished writing it about a little bit less than a month ago, and
Yeah.
it was so much fun to write. It's in with my editor now.
Hmm.
It is sort of, it's a paranormal rom-com murder mystery because they
Mm.
kind of end up at this Norwegian resort,
Okay.
and they get stuck at the Norwegian resort, and people start dying. So I had just a great deal of fun writing it, and they're both a lot of fun. So
I'm really excited for that.
yeah.
And that's something too, like these characters, they're so like they're serious and they have their moments, but they're so funny at the same time. And it's not like in your face, over the top funny. It's like little things. Like there's this scene in the book where Max and his heroine from book one, I am drawing a blank.
Oh, Edie?
Yes, Edie. He's like covering her up with blankets and like making sure that she is safe and warm and all these things. And just the fact that she like eggs him on in such a subtle way. And like it's just the little things like that that I love about this book and these two stories. because you have such an underlying like humor that like honestly like you would miss it sometimes if you're not really paying attention because it's so subtle in some ways.
Well, I am honored. I try to make sure that I play their situations and their characters and their histories straight, like in the
Hmm.
terms in sense of I take the characters I take the characters seriously, but they don't necessarily take them well. Max entertainingly takes himself very seriously,
I mean,
but
Max is a
Edie,
serious guy, but he has
but
those like moments where
but
he's not.
Edie does not take him seriously,
Oh,
and that's one of the fun parts of their dynamic is how she punctures his ego
uh-huh.
um at all times. In fact, I will tell you that I don't know if this will my editor hasn't seen it yet, so maybe my editors will object. But right now, I did an epilogue for the couple, Thora and Kip, but then I did a group epilogue for the whole
Oh.
series. It is written in Max's POV, which was
Oh,
a lot of fun
I
because I
bet
had
that
not
was
written in
fun.
his POV before. It was so much fun to write in because he's desperately trying to pretend that he is heartless, and he is not heartless. He's
Except for
manipulative.
Edie.
He's manipulative, but he's not heartless. Well, even what you can see with Gwen,
Hmm.
like that there's a gentleness with Gwen
Yeah.
too, and so he's trying very hard to act like he doesn't care about anyone but Edie, but
We all
you
know
know,
that's a big fat lie.
that's a lie. And you should and he gets to debut another one of his outfits in the epilogue. We'll see if that stays.
I hope so because honestly, like his outfits and like whenever he was recognized for like his TikTok fame and like his social media outfits, like that was one of my favorite parts of his book. Because he was just like, why are they recognizing me for this? Like he's so grumpy about it, but it's like, dude, you put yourself out there.
Well, I am glad that the book made you laugh as well as, hopefully, keep you entertained in other ways too.
It did. It definitely, like, again, your books, there's something about them that we cannot stop reading them, which is a great thing for you as an author. But you just have this really great knack of writing real characters and real stories. And like these crazy paranormal vampire trolls, fays, like there's just something about the way that you bring them to life that it's so intriguing and entertaining. And I'm kind of sad that it's only going to be 3 books.
Well, I know that is, well, on
That's
a
what the
very technical
contract
level, it's what
is.
I'm contracted for. I deliberately built the world to be very large, like with lots
So
of
you
different
could
types of creatures.
always
I have
expand.
every intention of writing somewhere in that world again, whether
Okay.
it'll be through a publisher, whether it'll be on my own,
Mm.
whether it'll be, I don't know, but like I do not intend to leave. There's
Leave
a lot of
everybody
things
hanging. There's so much layer and level and just so many things happening.
yeah. And I introduce a lot of different types of creatures and
Hmm.
sort of potential stories deliberately to give myself
So if
some
you
toys to
ever,
play with.
yes, if I get like a hankering for this story type of thing.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a feeling I don't know if it'll be with Berkeley or with I don't
Hmm.
know, or on my own or whatever, but I
But you
suspect I
plan
will
to
be writing other stories,
in this
in
world.
in
Well,
that world. But
that
you
brings
know,
me joy.
well, I'm glad. That makes me very happy. I really enjoyed writing these books,
Yeah.
and it makes me happy that it's bringing joy to other people
Hmm.
too.
So I have introduced a new part for the author spotlight. So it's a kind of a
Okay.
this or that type of thing. They're all the way at the
Okay.
bottom.
All
Okay, so
right.
friends to lovers or enemies to lovers.
Friends to lovers, because sometimes enemies to lover, if it gets too it can veer toward meanness in a way that
Mm.
I find difficult to forgive. So, particularly the male main character, I'll forgive almost anything a female main character, but male main character, I'm like, how dare you? So friends to lovers, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ebook, audio, or physical book?
Uh, ebook in recent years, but actually I'm beginning to, for the first time, dabble a little bit with I first podcasts and now I'm thinking about audiobooks because I diamond paint a lot.
Okay.
And a lot of times I listen to music, but I've recently started listening to podcasts and now I think maybe
So,
audiobooks.
audiobooks, if you have not delved into that realm, I am a rereader in audio. I
Mm-hmm.
typically like it's few and far between that I will read a book first audio because I have a hard time focusing on it. I'm a 1.7 listener, but I
Mm-hmm.
reread. So like if I have a hankering for a book, but like I will pull up an audio book because like I know the story, I don't have to fully
Mm-hmm.
engage. So that is my advice for starting audiobooks.
Well, this is a good idea. I was thinking about maybe that would be a good way to get in some nonfiction too, because I do love nonfiction.
Mm.
So yeah. So for now, ebook because I'm old and I need bigger text. But
Mine has
but
gotten
I
bigger over the last couple years.
and it's just backlit too.
Uh-huh.
Also, I live in an apartment in Sweden. We don't have our book collection is already big enough. I don't have space for many more physical books. So
I
like
mean,
ebooks, it's easier.
it is easier, but those books are just so pretty when they're on a
They
shelf.
are. You knew that the Zamram.com cover glows in the dark,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah, I have that. Don't you worry.
Oh, good. I was gonna say I tell everyone because I'm like, it's so cool. It's
It
so
is super
cool.
cool. Yeah, no, we have that. Like all of us have all of us on the podcast have that one.
That's thank you.
Because
I'm honored.
we like our shelf trophies. They don't ever get read. They literally just sit on the shelf. Like somebody's like, "Oh, you have a bunch of physical books." I'm like, "Yes, but I do not open them. They just are there." Like
This is like the pineapple in Regency parties. I'm sorry, do you know they used to rent pineapples because pineapples are so expensive
okay,
that they would actually rent out pineapples to have at parties in
but they
Regency,
wouldn't eat them.
England, but they wouldn't eat it. It was just to show like be fancy because if you eat it, then you can't give it back. They
So
would
they
rent
just
the pineapple.
I did not know about that. I thought, well, because pineapples have a different connotation nowadays
Well,
in certain,
yeah, but
and I was like, where is she going with
no, no, no.
this?
It was just they were so expensive because they were tropical, plants and
Oh,
so forth. They were pineries. But anyway, so yes, so it's sort of like, except you're not giving yours back, but it's like the rented pineapple
it is.
of
They're just very pretty. And honestly, my youngest in like the sprayed edges, I've created a monster. It's
Oh
horrible.
yeah. Yeah,
So
they're beautiful.
beach or pool,
Beach.
small
Beach.
town or city.
It depends on the small town. Like it can't be so insular that it feels devoid of like diversity in every
Mm,
respect. So like it's got to be like I wrote the Harlots Bay sort of small town,
yes,
but it's a much more culturally expansive even if it's a small
tiny.
town, if that makes
Hmm. It
sense. Yeah.
does. Coffee or tea?
The caffeine coffee for like non-caffeinated, I do love like herbal teas.
Okay. Cookies or brownies?
I love both, but I make really excellent cream cheese swirl brownies.
Oh, that sounds good.
It's really good. They're Ghirardelli brownies and like not boxed, like from scratch with the cream cheese swirl in them that I make. And it's A plus. A plus brownie making.
Movie or TV show?
I guess in recent years, probably more movies,
Yeah.
but honestly, I haven't watched much of either. When we moved to Sweden, we didn't get it like a TV package,
Hmm.
so everything I watch is basically like on YouTube or streaming.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
90s rap or 90s rock?
I would say this is I listen to like uh well, I mean obviously Nirvana and stuff, but I listen to a lot of Soundgarden still to
Okay.
this day.
I
But
like
I
some
also
Soundgarden.
really love New Jack Swing, which was not like, it was sort of like the Janet Jackson Control era,
Hmm.
like New Jack Swing sound. So it was, I liked that too. So it
Okay.
wasn't really rap, but it was,
It was like
I
a
liked,
blend.
it was, like R&B, like
Hmm.
a little bit more. Like I really love New Jack Swing. I didn't find out the term for it until I started listening to music podcasts.
Oh,
And they
really?
did an episode about the New Jack Swing sound. And I'm like, wait, I love all these songs. These are all the songs that I really loved. As well as, some of the grunge and,
I mean, I
things
did
like
like my
that.
grunge
But
phase.
yeah, yeah. I used to watch Headbangers Ball. I had a friend
Hmm.
who introduced me to Headbangers Ball with Ricky Rackman
Yeah.
in the 90s, but I did really love, like, again, in retrospect, what is now, again, New Jack Swing, Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, all
Hmm.
those. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Olivia, for taking time out of your day and hanging out with me for a while.
Well, it was wonderful chatting with you. I had a really good time. Thanks for letting me ramble about random stuff.
I mean, I love a good ramble. A tangent is very fun. We like to say come for the romance, stay for the tangents because we don't always pay attention to what we're talking about and just kind of veer. Like we went through a whole like couple of months where we talked about the weather for a good chunk of the podcast because I live outside of Pittsburgh and we got hit with that really bad like snowstorm.
I
And so
know.
after that, like we talked about the weather every week because we had to do a weather check-in. So tangents are more than welcome.
Is there anything you want to ask me about any of my other books too, or anything else?
Not today, but maybe another
Okay.
time. But thank you.
As long as I'm showered and have makeup on.
Well,
Because I wasn't sure if the video was going to be used. So I'm like, okay, fine.
no video this time, but we can actually. Until next time, happy reading, everybody.
Find us on Instagram at Buzzing About Romance or on Twitter at Buzzing Romance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.